I'm 42. Until 2 years ago, I thought I had a stable, boring, predictable life, the kind people complain about but secretly want. I'd been married to my wife, Emily, for 14 years. 2 kids. A house we stretched ourselves thin to buy. Barbecues on Sundays. Arguments about dishes and money. Nothing dramatic. If you'd asked me back then, I would have said we were solid. We weren't passionate like we used to be, sure. We were tired. Work, school runs, aging parents. But I trusted her completely. She was my person. The one who knew my worst insecurities and still chose me. The problem started with my father's death. He left behind a messy estate, property, some debts, unresolved tax issues. I was overwhelmed. I didn't know where to start. A friend recommended a family lawyer. Said he was discreet, efficient, trustworthy. His name was Daniel. I remember shaking his hand in his office, thinking, thank God. Someone competent. I had no idea I was inviting a snake into my home. Daniel was polished. Early 40s, sharp suits, calm voice. The kind of guy who made you feel stupid for worrying. He said he'd help us sort out the property transfers and protect our assets. Emily insisted on attending the meetings with me. I thought it was sweet. Supportive. Looking back, I can see how it started. He'd make small jokes directed only at her. Compliment her insight. Ask her opinion before mine. I laughed it off. She deserved attention. I'd been distracted, grieving, stressed. Sometimes she'd stay behind after meetings while I went to take calls. She said she was clarifying paperwork details. I believed her. There were little things. She started dressing nicer for meetings. Wearing perfume. Smiling more when his name came up. Once I teased her. Careful, you might run off with the lawyer. She laughed. Said, please. He's not my type. I wish I had listened to the part of me that didn't fully believe that answer. But trust makes you blind. Or maybe just stupid. The first real crack wasn't dramatic. It was a text. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs putting our youngest to bed. It lit up. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. But I saw his name. Daniel. The preview said. I've been thinking about earlier. I can't stop. My stomach dropped in a way I can't describe. Like missing a step in the dark. I stood there staring at the screen, telling myself there was a logical explanation. Maybe he meant paperwork. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe grief had turned me suspicious. She came downstairs smiling. Asked what was wrong. I said nothing. That night I barely slept. My brain kept replaying every meeting. Every laugh. Every time she defended him when I complained about his fees. The next morning she was texting someone while making coffee, smiling at her screen. I asked casually, busy morning? She looked up too fast. Just lawyer stuff. Something inside me shifted. Not shattered. Not yet. But shifted. After that, I started noticing everything. She guarded her phone. Took calls in the other room. Said Daniel needed urgent clarification almost every other day. The property issues were dragging on longer than expected. More meetings. More private conversations. More reasons for her to be out of the house. One evening she said she had to meet him alone because I was too emotional about the inheritance. That hurt more than I let on. When she came home, she smelled different. Not like perfume. Like someone else's cologne mixed with her skin. I asked how it went. She said, fine. We're making progress. But she wouldn't look at me. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was insecure. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe I was the jealous husband cliché. Then I checked the phone bill. Dozens of calls between them. Late at night. Sometimes after midnight. No legal issue requires midnight calls. That's when the fear stopped being abstract. And started feeling real. I didn't confront her right away. I hate that about myself. Instead, I waited. Watched. Collected evidence like I was building a case in my own marriage. One Saturday she said she had a brief document review at Daniel's office. Weekend. Apparently urgent. Something snapped in me. I drove there. I sat across the street in my car like some pathetic private investigator in a bad movie. I kept telling myself I'd leave if I didn't see anything suspicious. An hour passed. Then I saw them. Not in the office. They walked out of the side entrance laughing. Too close. His hand on the small of her back. Intimate. Familiar. They didn't see me. They kissed beside his car. Not hesitant. Not confused. It was practiced. My ears rang. My hands went numb. 14 years of marriage reduced to a parking lot kiss. I don't remember driving home. I just remember sitting in our driveway, staring at the house where my kids were inside, and thinking, how long has this been happening? When she got home, I was waiting in the kitchen. She froze the second she saw my face. Where were you? I asked. Daniel's office. You know that, I said. I saw you. Her face strained of color. For a split second, pure panic. Then calculation. It's not what you think, she said automatically. I laughed. I actually laughed. You were kissing him. Silence. Then tears. Fast. Controlled. Strategic. It just happened, she whispered. We've been under so much stress. Just happened. Like tripping on the stairs. I asked how long. She said, a few weeks. I didn't believe her. I still don't. She said he made her feel heard. Appreciated. That I'd been distant since my father died. So that was my fault now. He was supposed to help us sort out our property. He started with her. And she let him. The worst part wasn't even the kiss. It was what came after. Once I pushed past the tears and the "it just happened," more details spilled out. Not willingly, only when I cornered her with things I already knew. The late-night calls? Emotional support. The private meetings? He needed my signature. The weekend? That wasn't the first time they'd been alone like that. It had been 3 months. 3. While I was grieving my father. While I was trying to hold our family together. While I trusted her to be my partner. I asked her if she loved him. She hesitated. That hesitation broke something in me more than the affair itself. She finally said, I don't know. I remember thinking, 14 years, and you don't know? She swore it was. Mostly emotional. Like that was supposed to comfort me. As if betrayal is cleaner when it starts with conversation instead of sex. I asked if they'd slept together. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I called Daniel. Probably a mistake. He answered like nothing was wrong. I told him I knew. That I'd seen them. There was a pause. Then he sighed. Like I was inconveniencing him. This is between you and your wife, he said calmly. I've advised her to consider her happiness. Advised her. Like she was a client, and my marriage was just another file. I lost it. I called him every name I could think of. He stayed composed. Professional. Detached. That made it worse. The next day I fired him. Obviously. But the damage was already done. He'd had access to our finances, our assets, our vulnerabilities. He knew everything about us. I felt humiliated in a way I didn't know was possible. He hadn't just slept with my wife. He'd done it while sitting across from me at a conference table, shaking my hand, charging me by the hour. I started wondering how long I'd looked like a fool. How many times they'd smiled at each other while I talked about protecting our family. Emily begged me not to tell anyone. Think about the kids, she said. That line made my blood boil. She hadn't thought about the kids when she was in his arms. We barely spoke except to argue. She said she felt lonely for years. That I'd been emotionally unavailable. That Daniel, understood her. I told her if she was lonely, she could have talked to me. She said she tried? Maybe she did. Maybe I didn't listen enough. That thought haunts me. But loneliness doesn't justify betrayal. The house felt poisoned. Every room held memories I couldn't look at the same way. Our bed felt like evidence. She said she ended it. I didn't believe her. I checked her phone constantly. Hated myself for it. Hated what I was becoming. One night she said, "Do you even want to fix this?" I didn't know the answer. I loved her. But I also couldn't look at her without seeing that parking lot. The hardest part wasn't the screaming matches. It was pretending. We'd sit at dinner with our 2 kids, talking about homework and soccer practice, while underneath the table our marriage was rotting. They could feel it. Kids always do. My oldest asked one night, "Why do you and Mom look mad all the time?" I said I was just stressed about Grandpa's estate. I hated lying to him. Emily cried after they went to bed. Said we were damaging them. Said we needed to either fix this or end it. I asked her if she missed Daniel. She didn't answer right away. That silence again. She finally said, "I miss feeling wanted." That sentence has lived in my head ever since. Was I not wanting her enough? Had I gotten too comfortable? Too distracted by work and grief? I started blaming myself in waves. Then I'd remember them kissing. And the blame would turn back into rage. I was swinging between love and disgust hourly. It was exhausting. Her sister found out. Not from me. Emily told her. Part of it. And suddenly I was getting texts about how marriage is complicated, how people make mistakes, how I shouldn't throw away 14 years. Funny how the person who was betrayed is always told to be the bigger person. My own mother said, "At least she didn't leave you." That one stung. Daniel, of course, faced no consequences socially. He's still practicing. Still advising families. Still sitting across tables from husbands who trust him. Meanwhile, I'm the one waking up at 3 a.m. with chest pain. We tried counseling. I agreed because I didn't want to tell my kids one day that I hadn't tried. In therapy, she admitted it wasn't just about attention. She said being with him made her feel alive. I asked her if our life was dead. She said it had felt that way for a while. I didn't know whether to fight harder, or accept that I'd already lost. About a month into counseling, more truth came out. Not because she volunteered it. Because the therapist asked directly, "Was it physical?" Emily stared at the floor. Yes. Just one word. It felt heavier than any scream. She said it started accidentally, after a meeting ran late. He'd poured wine in his office. They talked about stress, about me, about how distant I'd been. Then it just happened. I almost laughed at how predictable that sounded. It didn't just happen once. It happened multiple times. In his office. In a hotel twice. Once in his car. While I was home with our kids. While I was filling out paperwork he charged us for. The therapist asked how I felt. I said I felt replaceable. That's the word that kept coming up in my head. Replaceable. Like 14 years of history could be swapped out because someone else made her feel alive for a few hours. I've never felt smaller in my life. We didn't separate immediately. That might surprise people. For months, we existed in this weird in-between state. Not healed. Not broken up. Just suspended. She blocked him. Changed lawyers. Gave me full access to her phone. Shared her location. It didn't fix anything. Trust doesn't come back because someone flips a transparency switch. I'd wake up and look at her sleeping beside me and feel 2 completely opposite things at once, love and resentment. Sometimes I'd reach for her. Other times I'd roll away like she was a stranger. Intimacy was worse. Every time we tried, my brain betrayed me. I'd picture him touching her. Saying things to her. Seeing parts of her that used to feel like they were only mine. I hated myself for being possessive. But I also hated her for giving that part of us away. Some days I thought we could survive this. Other days I felt like I was slowly erasing myself just to keep the family intact. The real breaking point wasn't another lie. It was a random Tuesday. Nothing dramatic happened. No new messages. No secret meetings. I was folding laundry and found the dress she wore the day I followed her to his office. I just stood there holding it. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. I couldn't remember the last time I felt safe in my own marriage. Not angry. Not suspicious. Safe. That feeling was gone. I went downstairs and told her I couldn't do this anymore. She cried. Said she'd ended it months ago. Said she was trying. Said I was giving up. Maybe I was. But I was tired of measuring her words. Tired of scanning her face for dishonesty. Tired of wondering if I'd somehow driven her into another man's arms. I told her I deserved a marriage where I didn't feel like second choice. That night I slept in the guest room. And for the first time in months, I slept without replaying that parking lot. We're separated now. The house is being sold, ironically, part of the same property mess that brought Daniel into our lives. The kids know we're taking space. We haven't told them everything. I don't know if we ever will. Emily says she regrets it. Says she was lost. Says she loves me. I believe she believes that. But something fundamental cracked inside me. Infidelity isn't just about sex. It's about rewriting history. I look back at those 3 months and realize our entire reality was different for her than it was for me. That realization changes you. I still love her. That's the cruelest part. But I also learned that love doesn't automatically mean safety. If anyone reading this feels that small voice in their gut telling them something isn't right, don't ignore it like I did. Trust is fragile. And once someone proves they can break it, you never fully unknow that.